Well, welcome to our closeout for the month of August. So we're going to try something a little different this month. It's still going to be the same format, 31 days in 32 minutes, give or take. We're going to try a little bit of different format this month though, because August has been very dynamic, very interesting month. And so I thought that I would treat you guys to a bit of a showcase of how the app itself shows the days on a graph. And so we'll look at what we've got going here. So these are the days all strung together as you would see them on the Tesla app. And so I'm going to go through the master log while we take a look at these graphs. So what I want you to take a look at first here is that I've got all of the elements there. The green is obviously what is to and from the Powerwall. The yellow is the solar contribution, and the blue is our home usage. The gray is the grid. And so we're starting off there on the first, and the first and the second are pretty typical days actually, showing solar contribution, a little bit of AC use, and then you come home in the evening and you charge your car. And so everything runs along pretty smoothly there. As you can see, the little blue peaks that appear above the green, that's where the home outstripped the ability of the battery to provide power. And then the other bits are pretty much self-explanatory. Now on the second, you'll notice that right around noon there, you'll see that patch of gray. And the reason that's there is that on the second, I was helping Tomas with some diagnostics on his system. And in order to do that, I actually switched the system's power off briefly, and then the system wouldn't put it back on. And so I wound up actually putting the system on zombie apocalypse mode that day, just to try and force it to actually put power to the home from the batteries. And so that's why you see that gray patch there. And then, finished off the day with a bit of charge to the car, 15 kilowatts. The little spike above that is from the AC use at the same time. And then you'll see a little hump there at midnight. Temperatures were starting to warm up a little bit, and so that's AC use. And so then on the third, again, it's a pretty typical use, but on the third, what you'll see is that I was putting some charge to the car. I was actually trying to put about 5 kilowatt hours or so to the vehicle. 12, actually, I think is what it turned out to be here. So that's what the notes say. But you'll notice that sliver where I actually drew from the grid. So I actually wound up putting the system on zombie apocalypse mode that day again, simply because the system was still not responding. And so eventually it sorted itself out and everything was fine. And on the 4th, we wound up doing some driving and wound up taking a rather large slug off of the battery, sent 30 kilowatt hours to the vehicle. That's what you're seeing in that big chunk there. And then again, that secondary rise that's in there, that's actually AC use and circulating fan on top of the power that was going to the car. And then 3 little hits from the AC, and then a little space there where just the circulating fans came on. Another hit from AC, and then circulating fan use again in the evening. And that wound up depleting the system. And so you can see there that the gray starts about 2 in the morning and then runs until the sun comes up, and that's where we were drawing off of the grid. We wound up pulling 3.4 kilowatt hours of grid power. And then what welcomed us during the day, you can see that fractured solar contribution. That's because of the cloud cover that was prevalent on the 5th. And so then I really kind of screwed up. So I took some charge on the 5th, just kind of replacing what was used in the vehicle. That's a 5 kilowatt hour hit there, and the temperatures were starting to creep up in the evening. And so now you can see that circulating fan coming on and pretty much staying on all evening, all the way until it looks like about 2:30 or 3 in the morning. But we wound up making it through to morning on the battery power that we had, and so didn't take anything from the grid. Had a little bit of cloud cover in the morning. That's what you're seeing there to the left of the solar contribution. And then relatively normal contribution for the rest of the day. We actually did pretty well, 53.6 kilowatt hours for the day. And then the hits that we got from the AC. And then where I screwed up, I actually wound up on the 5th, or actually the 6th rather, putting 8 kilowatt hours to the vehicle. I totally forgot that the following day was going to be a maintenance day, and that SunWorks was going to need to bring the system down to make some modifications to our existing hardware on the wall. And to compound this, as you see on the morning of the 7th, I actually wound up putting 5 kilowatt hours to the car and going to the studio before I got a call from them saying that they were on their way to the house. So that's what that huge chunk missing is in the middle of the 7th. We tried to repair it a little bit by getting some power in, but just wasn't going to happen. We only managed to get 8% by total solar day, and that obviously was not going to be enough to get us through the evening. And as you can see there, around 9, 10 at night, we wound up drawing power from the grid all morning. And then again, once solar contribution came back on, then we were able to start to put power back to the home. But that wound up taking 7.9 kilowatt hours of the grid power from on August 8th. And so on the 9th, again, a return to pretty much a kind of a normal situation where we charge in the evening, but as you can see there, a very cloudy day, and that's the result of that cloudy day. Not much production. Well, we didn't do too bad, 46.9, but still reduced by 5 kilowatts or so. And then in the evening, that chunk is 22 kilowatt hours to the vehicle because we needed it. We needed to use the car, and that was where we were saying we were going to make that decision between the car and the running the home, or drawing that off of grid power. And the decision was to go ahead and do it off of grid power because, well, it costs less than gasoline. And so then that's what we did. And then you can see again at around 3 in the morning, 2:33 in the morning, we start drawing from the grid again on the 10th, and a little bit more around 8 or so as we started cooking breakfast and that kind of thing. But total loss for the 10th was 5.8 kilowatt hours. And then in the evening, I wound up taking another hit to the vehicle, 15 kilowatt hours. And on the 11th, wound up returning around midday from a trip. And so then upon returning home, put 16 kilowatt hours to the car. And then some hits from AC there, you can see. And then a big hit from AC in the evening. The temperatures were starting to climb up a little bit that day. A couple other spikes, also brief AC hits. And then again, you see about 3:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, we ran out of battery power. And so the 12th again was one of those days where we started at 0, and system managed to recover a bit, and again, to cover daily driving, wound up actually putting 12 kilowatt hours to the car. I took a trip over to see Tomas that day, and wound up helping him with his drawdown test, and put 29 kilowatt hours from his system into the car. So thank you for that, Tomas. But you can see several hits from the AC in the evening as the temperatures start to rise up a bit as we start to head towards the 13th. And on the 13th, I had to do some more out-of-town driving, and so what I wound up doing was reducing the power to the system as much as I dared to do. Put 5 kilowatt hours to the car, and again, quite warm. You can see the elevated air conditioning use there. A couple of hits even in the evening around 9 and 10 o'clock, and then that elevated plateau there where the circulating fans were on to try and cool the house. Windows were closed because it was a hot evening. And then the 14th was another scorcher, as you can see. AC use starting pretty much before noon even. Oh, and also that morning you can see there where we ran out of battery power. About looks like about 3:30 in the morning or so. And so then we wound up drawing 5.8 kilowatts that day. And then again, all that AC use. There's just no way to bank any power. And so then on the 15th again, starting at 0, we wound up running out of battery power. It looks like there sometime around 1 in the morning, and I wound up taking 8.4 kilowatt hours from the grid before the sun wound up coming up and matching the home's loads. And we didn't do any vehicle charging, as you can see, on the 14th or the 15th. And even so, on the 15th, we wound up using 50.7 kilowatt hours. Crazy. Again, a lot of AC use. Well into the evening, too. I mean, the AC didn't turn off until, what it looks like they're close to 11 at night. And by midnight, we were already drawing from the grid. And so that's what you see there on the 16th. 16th was another scorcher. Not putting any power to the vehicle, just trying to get past the day, trying to bank enough power to make it through to the 17th. And as you can see, coming up into view, we didn't even come close to making it. With all the AC use on the 16th, we were only at 15% charge in the system at total solar day. So by 11:30 at night, we were done. We were already starting to draw power from the grid. And so then on the 17th, you can see wound up pulling 5.2 kilowatt hours from the grid. And then you can see where the draw of the home was finally matched by the solar contribution just around 8 o'clock, a little before. And the 17th, we're showing where we've got much lower temperatures, and it's amazing what just one day will make. Now also you can see if you look closely on the 16th, you'll notice the reduction in the height and width of that solar contribution. And you'll also notice that it's kind of pushed over towards morning, and that's the product of the heat and how the heat affects solar. And on the 17th the temperatures were returning to normal and wound up at 53.8 kilowatt hours of contribution, as you can see there, and far less AC use. And then on the 18th, as you can see, as we come into view, we're fine. Temperatures are right back to normal. We did use a little bit of AC in the evening there, I can see, but really only those 2 hits. And so the system had managed to recover to 71% at end of total solar day on the 18th. And so then we roll into the 19th, and we actually managed to contribute to the grid just a tiny bit. .4, but I'll take it. I'll count it. Damn it. That was the result of peaking out at 100% late in the day, just before that AC hit there, and wound up bringing us back down. A little AC use in the evening. And so then on the 20th, because we were at, because we tickled 100%, we didn't drop all that much in the evening. And so by morning of the 20th, the system was still at 79%. And so that's what it looks like when you do a large contribution. By noon, we were already just hammering the grid. And then you can see some elevated AC use in the evening of the 20th. But on the 21st, we still managed to start the day at 77%. And so again, you can see the result of that. And that notch there in midday, you can see that we're not contributing to the grid when you have a huge hit from your AC system. And the AC system ran for quite a while, from noon till 2:30 or so. And it was a little bit overcast. You can see that from that notching that occurs on the top there. Now, this evening was interesting because still air. Now, you remember me talking about that several times when we were doing our weekly updates? Well, this is what still air looks like. The temperature in the home just barely just keeps rising slightly. And so then all of a sudden around 2:30, the AC system kicks on. And the windows are closed. There's no point in opening the window. You're not going to get any kind of relief from that. And so then on the 22nd, it set up another high use day. And lots of AC use in the evening, keep the home cool. But the home easily made it to morning, wound up 39% in the morning there. And the 23rd was another nice sunny day. And that was actually when we returned from our trip. And so what you can see there is immediately I needed to put some power back to the vehicle, and so we put in 10 kilowatt hours. And there's quite a few AC hits, and so our total solar day percentage was at 52%. And on the 24th, we easily made it to morning. Wound up in the morning we were at 28%. But now on that morning, I actually had to wound up making a round trip to the Bay Area, and so I had to take quite a hit to the car, and so I wound up discharging the system nearly to zero. Actually, I think I did actually go to zero. That's probably why what you get at 0.4 kilowatt hours from the grid there. And then the system during the day was able to recover to 38%. And then you can see that rather large hit from the air conditioning, and then another one around 9 to 10 o'clock at night, followed by the circulating fans being on. And on the 25th we made it till morning, but made it with 14% in this system. And I returned home from the Bay Area and then needed to take a hit to the vehicle. Some moderate AC use there during the day. It was elevated temperatures again, so that led to that slightly reduced output of the solar panels as well, 48.2 kilowatt hours. But we wound up ending the day at 31% total solar day, and that was after taking a charge to the vehicle, figuring that 31% would be enough to get us to morning even with the heat. And so then on the 26th, you can see that we made it to morning. And this was one of those mornings where we just kind of barely made it, 4% remaining in the battery, so that's cutting it kind of close. And did some supercharging because I was doing some out-of-town errands, and it was just convenient to do that. And we knew that with the increased temperature on the 26th and what was projected to be another scorcher on the 27th, that we just let the system ride it out in hopes that we would make it till the following day. And following that evening on the 26th, we wound up just sitting at 25% of system charge at total solar day, and that's again cutting it really close, especially with that amount of air conditioning use that you see there. But on the 27th, we made it with 3% to spare, and again, scorcher of a day. So we're just going to ride on what we put to the car in supercharger miles and let the system ride itself out. Again, got that rather heavy AC use on into the evening. Decent production. A little overcast, and you can see that spike right there in the middle of the day. For the most part, we did pretty well. You can see that we were reduced a little bit, 47.1 kilowatt hours of production. And then on the morning of the 28th, you can see those circulating fans coming on again. That spike was me getting up for a midnight snack. Then again, early morning, starting around 6 or so, 6:30 in the morning, you can see another plateau there, and that was again from the circulating fans, trying to bring some of that cool morning air in to pre-cool the house so that we could stave off the AC use. And as you can see here, for the most part, the home is actually pretty well insulated. And so except on the hottest of days, you know, you don't really have to turn the AC on real early in the day. So that's a benefit there. But on the 28th, we barely made it to morning, 3% remaining in the system. Again, overcast. You can see that notching in the solar contribution. Temperatures were slightly lower than the previous day, and so that you can see we used the AC quite a bit less. And then on the 29th, you can see again circulating fans in the morning. That's pretty much been a theme for August. And you can also see that with the system recovering a little bit, I went ahead and wound up putting an evening charge to the vehicle, kind of returning to what our normal use pattern is in lower temperatures. And that hit is actually 22 kilowatt hours. And then again, you can see that there was a little AC use as well in that. And that drove the total home load to 21 kilowatts. And this is an interesting case in point. You can see that gray line on the bottom. And what you notice there is that between the solar contribution that we had left and the batteries, there was nothing of that 21 kilowatts of power coming from the grid. Nothing. That's what made that that whole thing about upgrading the main line to the house from 200 to 400 amps so annoying. But that's what it was. And so then as the 30th starts to hove into view here, you can see again a little bit of early morning air circulation, and then a 10 kilowatt hour hit to the car. Had to do some driving that day. And then we did pretty well. We didn't use the AC really all day long. We got a couple of hits there you can see from the circulating fans. And one of those might even, a couple of those might even be just oven. I think that second one looks more like oven use to me. And then AC wound up coming on around 6 or so, 6:30 or so in the evening, and ran until about 8. And then shut off. The temperatures were mild. And then again you see in the morning of the 31st, where we had a little bit of air circulating fan on, and then again around looks like what, 5:30 to 7 o'clock, something like that. And then you can see the system building during the evening. A little bit of a AC hit. Looks like around 2:30 to 3 o'clock, something like that, and then obviously putting some charge into the vehicle, and you can see that 2-layer spike there. It's the charge going to the vehicle as well as a bit of air conditioning use coming on at the same time, the tail end there. And then again, the reason that you have that separation is because part of your power is coming from sunlight at that point, and then you can see as that kind of tapers off and the battery takes up the excess, and then we finish the day with a whole bunch of air conditioning use into the evening. So I hope you found that interesting. It's kind of cool to see a graphical representation of what the month looks like instead of just looking at the log entries, since you've obviously already seen the log entries as we do our weekly updates. Let me know what you think in the comment section if this is something you'd like me to continue. It's a little more time consuming to put together, but it's doable. I think it's interesting. I think what I'm going to do is probably just for my own personal project at the end of the year, I'll probably do a yearly version of this, but plot it all out on a monthly calendar. I think that'd be kind of an interesting thing for people to see, especially if they're interested in looking at things like the grid contribution, to see where we had to draw from the grid during the year and how much. I think those kinds of things would be really interesting to look at, presented to you in a graphical form. So it's kind of a cool thing there. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us, and again, as always, I wish you the best of luck with your own systems. If there are any questions that you have, please do leave them in the comment section. We're very much driven by the questions that our subscribers leave for us. And till next time.